I'm Jim McDonald. I'm the Chief Financial Officer at Dunwoody, and I'm filling in for Rich Wagner, who is a little under the weather, but is here in spirit. So I want to welcome you all to the C. Charles Jackson Leadership Lecture Series program that has been created by the Alumni Board of Managers. I've been to all but one of them, and every one of them has been fantastic. So Nancy, you've got to stand with me. Yeah. What we want to do is bring a keynote speaker in first Thursday of every month to talk about leadership. And I'll say one thing, it's been great for the employees here at Dunwoody as well. It's really kind of not only just provided great information for everybody else, but it's been a real blessing for us. It's my pleasure today to introduce our keynote speaker, Nancy Dahl. Nancy is the President and Chief Operating Officer of Tastefully Simple and a member of the Dunwoody College of Technology Board of Trustees. Nancy leverages her position for living her best life with her leadership experience to deliver a message that challenges you to embrace the journey as well. Regardless of your age, your life is simply too important to leave it to someone else to decide what matters. Her career spans over 30 years, covering 4 different industries, with businesses that range in size from $20 to $750 million. She is currently President and Chief Operating Officer of Tastefully Simple. Tastefully Simple provides mealtime solutions that bring families back to the dinner table. Prior to Tastefully Simple, Nancy had led both the school and retail divisions of Life Touch, a $1 billion photographic company down in Bloomington. Very, very involved in high schools. They do that annual yearbooks and all kinds of stuff. She has given back. She has a proven track record as a resourceful problem solver, simplifying the complex and leading resilient change. This allows her to stay focused on the dynamic marketplace of today and build strong teams and communities prepared to lead the future. Additionally, Nancy serves on several nonprofit and corporate boards. She's a teacher, a national keynote speaker, and an author. Her messages focus on leadership development, innovation, and change and business transformation. Nancy has a book that will be launched in February of this year. I'm relatively new to this organization, and I'll just say that Nancy has really stood out as a real leader on the Board of Trustees, and for me personally, it's been great to have that kind of leadership to guide this college. So please help me and welcome Nancy Dahl.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for getting up early. One of the things you worry about is you show up in the room and no one's here. So I'm really glad that you've taken your morning and going to spend it together. And I'm particularly excited when people, one, get up this early. One, get up this early, and two, when you have a subject like this, I know you're here because you want to be better. And so that, to me, makes me very excited to be here with you today. And Jim, thank you very much for those remarks.
You're welcome.
You were supposed to be over there. I think that any presentation like this, it starts always with an introduction like what we just heard. Let me see if I can get this to go here. There we go. You get a promotional piece that has a picture of someone's name on it, right? They tell you a little bit about what you're going to talk about, and maybe that's all you know. Some of you maybe got a little more curious and Googled me, right? And you sort of got what you thought was the rest of the story. And I think with the introduction, just as in life, you can start to sort of tick off what you learn about somebody and try to piece together what kind of person you think they are, whether you have any interest in talking to them, whether there's anything they're going to say that you want to listen to. And so, usually they fall in this category. Where did you go to school? What kind of career have you had? Where did you grow up? And I think the more important one is, what do people say about you, right? Because anybody can write anything, but it's really, well, what do you know about her? What's the inside scoop? And I would tell you that most of what you've maybe read about or heard is what I call the outside story. And I like to start back a little further on the inside story, because I think it's the inside story that makes our life possible. And I think it also is does that, but it also makes our relationships possible, and I hope to do a little bit of that today. So I want to take a step back, and we'll compare notes to see if I am what you thought I was. Let's start with that, huh? So the first thing I would say is that, you see the executive photo, and that inside story is a little bit more about who you are as a person. And I think as we build relationships and as we think about our career, it's really important that we own that, right? That's really, really important for us to take inventory and understand what that is, what does it mean, and what are you going to do with it, because that's really who you are. And so as you think about that, I think you got to go way back to the beginning. So I would tell you I grew up in a small town. There are 800 people in my hometown, 832 to be exact. There were 42 people in my graduating class, and it was the kind of town that had one stop sign, no stoplight, and the only people that stopped at it were those that didn't live there. So the cops always knew kind of where you were. We had the same number of churches as we had bars, so we had 5 churches and 5 bars, and all the bars were on the same side of the street. So we didn't have any accidents as you moved from one bar to the other. And so it was kind of one of those kind of towns, and I don't think I really appreciated it growing up, but I will tell you it shaped who I am as a person. Because with 832 people, you kind of can't be invisible, right? They know who you are, they know what your family name is. In fact, it was the kind of town where you knew where people lived, but you didn't know their address. And so I remember getting stopped one day. There was an ambulance that was trying to find someone, and they said, well, we're looking for this street address. And we said, we don't know where that is. Can you tell us who you're looking for? And they told us, and we could tell them then where they lived. So it was that kind of town. So it said your voice counted, that you needed to show up ready to contribute, that your community didn't work unless you were there to help. And so that's really framed the way I look at life, and a little bit of, you'll see it all the way through the presentation. But I think it's important that we take the time to look at that. But beyond where you grew up, I'm the oldest of 3, so I have a brother and a sister that now numbers 14. My sister has 2 girls, my brother has 5. The last 2 were a surprise, and it was a boy and a girl. So he has 4 girls and a boy. It's very loud in his house. Lots of glitter and all of those sorts of things. I have been married for 30 years to Brian, who I met at Gustavus, and we together have 2 boys. And the boys, I will tell you, I'm 5'10", and I'm the shrimp in the family. So my oldest is 6'8". He played Division I ball at 325 pounds, and the little one is 6'4". So we're a very active family. We love to be outside. My most favorite thing to do is to hunt, fish, and ride a motorcycle. So it makes me a bit of a unique package being a female, because that's not what most people will say, oh yeah, she would do that. And so that too has shaped a lot of the kind of person that I am and how I look at life. So let's return to this subject of leading your life. I think it's a really interesting subject that, quite frankly, a lot of people choose not to do. They just choose to ride along, and kind of whatever comes their way, they'll kind of deal with it. And when you really get engaged in conversation, the thing that I always hear is, you'll say, well, I don't know how you do what you do, because, this plan that you have, it just appears to be so great, but my life looks more like this. And so I can't do what you do, and I would tell you that every one of our lives looks like the line on the bottom. But when we meet someone, we always think their line is straighter than ours. And so therein lies the challenge that we all have, is to say, even though my line might look like the bottom and it's not exactly where I thought it was going to go, the commitment when you decide to build a plan is really not about being prescriptive about every step. It is about choosing the direction. So if we were going to go north to International Falls, if that's where we wanted to go, we might go to St. Cloud, the Little Falls, to Brainerd, to Fargo, to Duluth, on our way to International Falls, but we were still going north. And so I think as we sit to really think about the vision we have for our life and really what's possible in our life, we need to think directionally, right? Not prescriptive about the steps that we would take. The early parts of our life are pretty prescribed, right? We go 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, and then we continue on. And so there's little choice that we have there. But when we arrive at this place with the rest of our life where things aren't as prescriptive, it's important that we step back and say, what do I really want out of this gig, right? We're not here forever, so what do I really want to try to accomplish? And so this vision that we create for ourselves is one that's directional, and I would tell you that from the beginning you need to expect failure. Because when you do that, you can quit worrying about that and worry about your impact on the world. It's going to happen, right? So what's your plan A, your plan B, your plan C? If you met my younger son, he's the kind of person who doesn't accept no very well. In fact, if you say no to him, his interpretation of that is you didn't understand the question. Right? And that's sort of mine too. I also don't accept no. I said, you didn't understand the question, I'm just going to keep coming at you until I either wear you down or I get my nose into the tent and then it's all over. And so I think in life we need to be persistent about what's important to us because we're the only one that are going to care about that. Everyone, our mother, our father, everyone is going to have an idea of what we should do. And their input is interesting, but they don't get to vote. You do. But you have to have the courage to listen to your heart, to understand that vision, to take the time to listen to the vision, to let it, and it doesn't come in a day. And at every stage of your life it moves. And so it's important that you continue to revisit that because only you can identify what this vision is, and only you can do the work to do that. And I will tell you, if you do that, your next step, even when it's foggy, even when you don't really know where you're going, is a little clearer because you're only worrying about the next movable piece because directionally I know where I'm headed, right? It might not be in the order that I want it to be in. It might come faster than I wanted or slower than I wanted, but directionally I can go make those things happen. And I would also tell you that you'll meet lots of people and they have a great plan for their career. They can tell you exactly what they're going to do, but you ask them about their life and they sort of don't know what to say to you. And for me, life for me is an integrated proposition. This whole notion of having a balanced life, I think, is a crock. I don't think it's possible, and I think it's a dream that we shouldn't chase because we're destined to feel always a failure. What I'd rather think about is what are the goals I have in my overall life and how do I want to integrate them? Because some days I'm all in at work and I have almost little time in family. Other times I'm all in family, but over the period of time, what are the things I want to do? And as you progress through your life, I've got 5 dimensions of life. You may have other dimensions that you think about. But as you think about the beginning part of your career, it's all about you, right? What do I want to be doing and a little bit less about the rest? As you move into your career, it flips the other way. And pretty soon all you are about is about work, and the rest of your life doesn't exist until you arrive one day and you say, is this all there is? Which happens to all of us. And so I think it's important that you envision what should these circles look like, how do they interact, what's the kind of life I want, and which pieces matter to you, and what do you want to do about it? Because you're the only one that's going to allow those circles to exist in your life. I will tell you from the beginning, work is never going to tell you to go home. I've never had that happen ever. I can stay there all night and it would never come and tell me to go home. It will always be there when I get there, right? So I think it's important that you understand your own boundaries and what it is you want to do so that you can live the life that you want to be able to live. And I would tell you that life is an experiential model, so it's important to try it on. And when you're trying on what's important to you, it won't feel good. It'll feel funny, and then people that know you will say, what are you doing? Is that really what you want to do? Which lets that little voice in your head say, well, maybe I don't. And so you stop. But you're the only one that's going to know if it's going to fit. You're the only one that's going to know it's going to practice. And I would also tell you, you need to get used to learning out loud, which means you're going to be called on things before you're ready. You're going to be called on things before you're prepared, and you just need to be ready to go, which means that you're going to be learning as you're going, and that's part of the model. It takes 10,000 hours to become a master of anything. And so as you spend time on yourself, know that that's a life goal, and as you continue to learn out loud, you will continue to build skills that will set you up. And you're going to get to a place where you're going to say, I just don't know, right? School teaches us there's an answer book. Well, in life, there isn't one. And I remember in the early part of my career, I had a stack of paperwork on my desk that was waiting for answers from someone. And it was probably 11:30 at night, and I thought, I have got to move this work forward. So I just said, well, if I were queen for a day, what would I decide? And I started making stuff up. Well, on this one, I'd decide this. Okay, done. This one, decide that. Done. So that the next day you could move the work forward and have the confidence that 85% of what I made up that night was dead on, and the other 15% we corrected on the fly. And so as a leader, if you get into your people and you say, you're stuck, right? I don't know where to go. The next question shouldn't be, well, we'll wait. The next question should be, well, if I had to make it up today, what would it be? It's a very freeing statement. I remember walking in the first staff meeting where I had done this, and someone questions what I made up. Of course, they didn't know I made it up. I said, well, I just made it up. And they looked at me. I said, yeah, I made it up. So I said, well, if you don't like that, then what would we do? And together we made it better so that we had a better solution. But giving yourself permission as you get older to make stuff up, somehow we dismiss that as a childhood thing that we do. And frankly, you got to make it up all through your life. So as you get stuck, don't sit and wait. I meet lots of people that are sitting and waiting. And I said, what are you waiting for? Well, I need this one piece of information. Well, if I know this and I know this, what would I make it up to get connected? Because when you put your place in park, it takes a lot to get it started again. And so it's more about that attitude you have in your life, about your passion for where it is you're going, and the fact that you're not going to accept, no, I'm going to continue to go. You can shut that door, I'll find that one. Shut that one, I'll find a window. It's that persistence to have a belief that your vision is worth it, that you're worth it, that you own it, that you get to decide to be able to go make those happening. And then taking time to debrief. This is one of the most important life skills that we can learn, and we aren't taught this. How do we get feedback that's helpful to us? There's lots of people in our lives that I call feedback hacks, right? Ask anybody for feedback, they're going to give it to you, but they don't own it. So learn to understand what kind of feedback you need that makes you better. What kinds of things do you need to make happen? And ask yourself these 4 questions every time. Debriefing, because of the way we are taught in school, is to find what's wrong, right? I think that's a backward-looking activity. I would rather use the activity to go forward. So these are the 4 questions you need to ask when you stop and say, well, I just want to stop and learn what I learned. So the very first question is, what am I most proud of? Right? Second one, what did I learn? Third, what could I optimize if I did it over again? Hear how that question's different than what's wrong? How could I have optimized it if I were to do it again? Because what that does is it gets a muscle practiced so that the next time you fit that situation, you don't go, oh shit, here it comes again, right? You say to yourself, oh, bring it on, I know what I do this time. And the last question says, when I'm going forward, what do I need to take with me? Because in life, we don't get to unpack our locker at the end of every day and bring back only the supplies we need the next year at school. We just keep bringing those bags with us and bringing those bags with us and bringing those bags with us, and sometimes you don't need them. And so I think it's really important that we take time to debrief. And then as we move forward, rather than focusing on what went wrong, let's really talk about what we're going to celebrate and move. Celebrate forward movement, however small it is, because you're moving in the right direction towards your destiny. And in the end, I would tell you that it is really about you doing the work. I meet all kinds of people that slide right by, right? They think they can read the headlines and make it happen, and I will tell you it's going to catch up with you. Back to the inside story, if you don't deal with it, this is really who you are, you're never going to be able to leverage what your strengths are. One of the more difficult things for me to deal with is the fact that I'm female. I'm 5'10", which is taller than most folks. And I like to hunt and fish, and I didn't like playing with dolls. So as you get older and you start getting into executive ranks and now you're shooting with other folks, and you're a better shot than they are, do you miss or do you hit it? I didn't tell people that I like to hunt, fish, and ride motorcycle until I was 40. Because for me, work and personal were separate. What I was missing was the texture of my inside story connected me with the people in the organization. To this day, I can walk into any plant at LifeTouch, anyone that was in the audience in 1999 that remembers the story I told about motorcycles, they will come and ask if I've been riding this summer. So your inside story matters, but you have to embrace who you are and leverage that going forward. So instead of hiding or not telling people what it is or who it is you are, learn to embrace that so you know how to leverage it, right? If you're different than others, that's cool, but learn how to be different and embrace and inspire others to be better as well. Because as you move forward, it's really about you driving your bus. I mentioned this earlier. Some people will choose to take a seat in their bus, but somebody else drives it. Their mom drives it, their dad drives it, their best friend drives it, their boss drives it, and they go wherever they say. And you meet them, and they're not very happy. And they're not living their life potential, and their light's a little dimmer than everybody else's. So I would tell you it's your bus, You get to drive it, nobody else does. And if you really don't know where you're going, just pull into the parking lot, but don't put it in park. Just keep driving around until you figure it out, right? But eventually, in order for you to figure out where you're going, you have to leave the parking lot, right? You have to decide, when am I going to leave the parking lot? But just don't stop and wait. I think there's too much waiting that goes on. It's so, well, okay, well, what should I think about? Again, I'm going to fill in the gap. Where is it that I'm going to be able to go? And know that while you're driving the bus, just like when we drive our cars, you have to maneuver the road construction. You might have wanted a promotion. You might have thought you were next in line and you didn't get it. You might have thought you were going to retire with that company and it didn't happen. It's just road construction. You can still go to International Falls. You're just going a different way. And so as things happen in your life that weren't in your plan, that's okay because you remember where your vision is. You decide your vision. Someone else doesn't decide your vision. You might start trying on things you know. You might follow in your father's footsteps or your mother's footsteps around their career, what your family does, to try it on. But don't stop there, because it's as far as you will go. Go look at the other things as well, so that when you come back to focusing on the things that are important to you, you know why you're there. Your answer isn't, well, I'm here because my dad was here and my grandfather was here and all the rest. You know that you're here because you want to be here, and that's what's the most important for you. Because in the end, it's really about choosing the move. And you always have a choice. Even in those times where it appears you don't, it's always your choice. And sometimes in our careers, it's about leaving the organization we're with, because it's not a place that lets us do our best work. The organization no longer fits what we're doing. Our boss doesn't understand who we are. We're too different from them. And so we're more annoying to them than they are inspiring us to be our best. But those are all decisions that we get to make that allow us to optimize who it is that we're going to be. And so I would just encourage you, as you think about your life, to remember that it's your life. You're the driver. You're the one that makes the difference. But to remember that the thing that you need to do is to start. That's always your decision. And we can start wherever you are, right? That's the other thing is, well, I didn't start where you started. That's okay. You can start where you are. And if you didn't have a plan to this point, that's also okay. What's your plan for the rest of the way? You say, well, it's too darn big. I can't figure it out. Okay, what's the plan for the next 90 days? What's the plan for the next year? What's the plan for the next 6 months? Directionally, in terms of what it is that we want to do. And so learning to live your life to be your best is about first envisioning what's possible for you, committing your heart and soul to that, and your passion and courage to be able to go try it and make it happen, even when the world tells you that maybe you should think about something else. They don't have your perspective, only you do. And so it's important that you take the time to do that. So I'm going to stop there because I know we want to go over to Q&A. And I just thank you for your time. I hope I've inspired you to have a different perspective on your day and maybe your life. And I look forward to hearing from you. So